But Joseph said to them, "Do not be afraid, for am I in God's place? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good in order to bring about this present result, to reserve many people alive." Hi, I'm Rev Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind. My opening statement was from the book of Genesis, chapter 50, verse 19 to 20. Those are the words of Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers, and through a series of events, he eventually became the second most powerful man in Egypt, reporting only to the Pharaoh. "Do not be afraid, for am I in God's place? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant for good in order to bring about this present reality." Those are the words of Joseph, who learned that it doesn't matter how things appear in physical reality. There is a higher reality, a higher order, if you will, that can bring about a different outcome than what may seem to be obvious to your eyes. Because of that, Joseph became a spiritual warrior. I'd appreciate it greatly if you would click on the like button below and subscribe to my broadcast. The purpose of this broadcast, On the Wings of Your Mind, is to help develop a powerful force of spiritual warriors. Spiritual warriors. The term spiritual warrior is used in Tibetan Buddhism to identify one who combats the universal enemy, which is self-ignorance, the ultimate source of suffering, according to Buddhist philosophy. I'd like to give a shout out to Timothy Holly for his comments in response to some statements I've made regarding the effectiveness of protest. Thank you, Mr. Holly. I appreciate your engaging with me, because that is how we both will grow. That is why I strongly encourage your comments and thoughts and opinions. It is only through our relationship that our minds can connect and make change. Now, Tim delivered a very eloquent statement regarding those who have actually been on the street, placing their bodies in jeopardy for the sake of bringing about change. He lamented the fact that there were too many of us who sit at home in their armchairs and criticize what is happening on their TV screens. Oh, I agree with Tim. The energy expended and the risk taken by those on the streets who are actually protesting for change is considerable. And it's also of great value. Tim also stated that we need much more than astral travel. I agree with him on that too. But his reference to astral travel leaves me with the impression that he sees the use of thought and imagination as entertaining, but not very effective when it comes about bringing about changes in the physical world. Well, first of all, on the issue of armchair quarterbacking, I have been in the streets protesting many times. I have been parts of effective protests where we got changes made, where things happened. We shut down a power plant that was polluting the neighborhood. We did various other things to bring about political change, community change, racial change. Those things happen. I was involved in those. And I feel that because of that, it gives me a certain perspective on what happens in the world of protesting as it brings about changes in the physical world. Tim referred to astral travel, as I said. It seemed to me that he was equating my saying that we could make change through our thoughts, through the combination of our thoughts, the combining of our thought energy, as somewhat dreaming, as astral traveling, perhaps. And I can see how that could be the case, how that could be interpreted that way. First of all, dreams without work is vaporware. It's not real. But let's go back and look at what I'm talking about in terms of our thoughts having power. You know, we as a people, as a society, have always been taught that only the physical counts. We've been taught that, yeah, religion is nice, spirituality is nice, it's something that you do on Sunday, but in the real world, it has no place, and that is not true. It can actually make powerful changes in the real world because the spiritual world is over that physical, real world, if you will. And because it is over it, what happens in the spiritual can come down into the physical and make those changes. So imagination, yes, is for dreamers. And dreamers hardly ever get anything real accomplished. So we've heard. But there are different degrees of imagination, and some of them are incredibly powerful. I like to compare it to different kinds of light. When you turn on an incandescent light bulb, it blasts out photons of light in all directions in a room. And that's great for lighting a room, but it will have no effect on penetrating a wall. There's nothing there. It's chaotic. They're just weakly going on in all different directions. But let's do this. Let's take that beam, that crazy light, and begin to focus it down into a beam so that all the photons are going in the same direction with no deviation. Then you have a laser. A laser is a device that generates an intense beam of coherent light by stimulated emissions of photons. When I say coherent beam of light, what I mean is coherent light is light in which all the phases, all the waves at each point along that beam are exactly the same, going in the same direction, the same amplitude, the same, focused in the mind. Lasers are used to drill and cut, to align and guide in surgery. The properties existed in holography, barcodes, reading and playing CDs. Lasers are very powerful. And in some applications, when you focus that laser at a wall, it will burn a hole through it. It is very powerful. So you have light, but if you focus it and bring it down into a beam, it has a laser effect. It is the same with imagination. It is the same with our thoughts. It is the same with our mental energy. It can be used when focused. Thoughts, imagination, mental energy can be used to bring about changes in the physical world, in physical reality. For example, during the period 2007 and 2010, when there were a sufficiently large amount of people available for it, there was a group of which represented in size about 1% of the United States population. And they got together and were doing meditation for peace. Meditation for peace. And what they found was that during that 3-year period, when those people got together to do a meditation for peace, there was a significant decrease in both the national homicide rate and urban violent crime rate compared to the same period 3 years earlier, or 2002 to 2006. This is 2007 to 2010. The meditators had an effect on the rate of violence going on in this country. Powerful mental energy combined and focused. The hypothesis here is that there does exist a field effect, an underlying effect of consciousness which connects all of us, in much the same way that in physics they discovered there's a great unity between matter and energy fields throughout the universe. It's all connected, it's all the same. And the more powerfully that underlying field is enlivened, is connected to, then the greater the unifying influence of peace and harmony on the lives of those around them can be affected. If you get a group together and get them to tune into each other and to focus on peace and harmony, they can make it happen. That's what I call spiritual warriorship. They can make it happen. And the Transcendental Meditation CD group went further, and they calculated that actually it doesn't take 1%, it takes the square root of 1 of a population that increased the harmony and improved the quality of life in society. Square root of 1. There have been 9 peer-reviewed articles, there have been 14 studies, and all been published to support this finding. The mind can have an effect on physical life. The mind can have an effect on physical life. Please click on the link button below and please subscribe. So more and more scientific seekers are discovering that the underlying consciousness that permeates everything and connects us all to each other actually exists, and it is responsive to trained, disciplined minds. So why do they have to be trained, disciplined minds? Well, I'm sure you know someone who's scattered and always coming up with ideas that never seem to go anywhere, always chattering about this or that and never seeming to accomplish anything because they've scattered their energy. They're like that incandescent light bulb that just every which way light is going, ideas are going, and nothing happens. On the other hand, I'm sure you probably know someone who is focused on reaching a goal, and they don't allow themselves to be distracted, and eventually they achieve that goal because they're focused like a laser. Maybe you've even had the experience yourself of being in a competitive situation where you were so focused that you lost yourself in the activity, in the exercise of the activity, in the execution of your job, your activity. And suddenly you found that you were moving without thinking. You were reacting instantly. You were doing amazing things that you couldn't do ordinarily. You were in the zone. You've had those moments, right? You know someone who's had moments like that where everything was working right. They were in the zone. They were connected. They were connected to infinite intelligence. They were connected to the overlying consciousness that exists within us. You know what? You do not achieve that level where you can get into that zone just because you feel like it. No, you have to train. You have to discipline yourself. You have to focus and do it over and over again until the connection between you and that underlying consciousness that permeates all things is made. That's when the click happens. That's when you become a warrior. This consciousness is called infinite intelligence. It's also called cosmic consciousness. It's also called universal mind. It's also called God. I can remember when I was an actor performing in a play, the rehearsals of going over and over my lines, over and over and over, my movements, my lines, my movements, until I was totally immersed in it. Totally, week after week. And then, on opening night, when the theater filled with people, I found that I suddenly slipped into the zone and I became that character. I was no longer Andrew Bozeman, I was the character. Not only was I doing the moves that I had rehearsed, but I was also doing other little behaviors that were not mine. And I was feeling an energy that was so strong, so palpable, that the entire audience was swept up in it. And we were all transported to a world outside of normal reality. We were in the zone. I remember that after that performance, backstage by the stage door, where I was signing autographs, people kept telling me over and over that they had completely forgotten they were sitting in a theater. They had actually been transported to that other world. They were in the zone. We were connected. Focused, disciplined mind can affect change through infinite intelligence, through the spiritual, into physical reality. You do that and you become a spiritual warrior. When you do that for the good of the world, when you do that for the benefit of all, you can become a spiritual warrior. The power of a disciplined mind can bring about change. It can. And it is my dream to bring about positive change for our world by helping you discover the spiritual warrior within yourself. The spiritual warrior within yourself. And the spiritual warrior, the skill, the discipline, and the focus to connect to the underlying consciousness that permeates us all, you can become a powerful force for change in the world, a powerful force for good in this world. The spiritual warrior fights against self-delusion and fear and ignorance that creates the suffering in our lives. It's a battle that goes on within. That's where the fight is, within, to keep yourself from being distracted, to keep yourself from being overwhelmed with fear, to keep yourself from being overwhelmed with doubt, to keep yourself from being overwhelmed with anger and resentment and all the things that can hold you back, all the things that can distract you, all the things that can divert the power that is yours, the positive power that is yours in your mind for the good of the world, for the good of yourself. Remember Reverend Bonnie Woods at the First Spiritualist Church Temple of East Aurora did a talk a couple of weeks ago, and she used the phrase, your vibe attracts your tribe. Your vibe attracts your tribe. And so by your expanding your mind to the point where you can begin to understand who and what you really are, that you are an individualized expression of infinite intelligence, that you are a spiritual being having a human experience instead of vice versa, that you are powerful beyond your wildest dreams. But all you have to do is become focused on the fact that infinite intelligence exists inside of you, that infinite intelligence expresses as you. And that's where your power lies. And the reward of that is that it expands your consciousness to the point that you become a beacon of awareness, that you can bring healing to the entire world. Becoming a spiritual warrior is what this program, On the Wings of Your Mind, is about. How do we do it? Well, it's simple, but it ain't easy, because I'm here to help you learn that. But remember the words of Joseph. Do not be afraid, for am I in God's place? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. God meant it for good. So whatever is happening to you, there is a gift there that you can take advantage of, but you must step away from fear. You must step away from doubt. You must step away from that guiltiness of, why is this happening to me? That grieving the loss of someone or something that you knew they are such a part of you, whatever that was, whoever they were. But you must remember that in the world of consciousness, there is no death. In the world of consciousness, in the world of infinite intelligence, everything continues to live and to be. Subject for a different talk. But we do not die. We are conscious beings who expand beyond this little sack of flesh that we call our bodies. God meant for us to be here for good. God meant for us to change the world for good. We are spiritual warriors. And so we must understand and accept at a cellular level that infinite intelligence not only creates everything in our world, it actually exists inside of us as us. It is expressing as us. It is expressing as us. And so the first step is to begin acknowledging the truth of that. God is us. God is us. Infinite intelligence is us. Infinite intelligence is us. And so when we speak through the purity of our hearts and our minds, then infinite intelligence is speaking through us. When we speak through the purity of our hearts and our minds, purity of our hearts and our minds, then we know that infinite intelligence is speaking through us. So I started off with the words from Joseph, "Am I not in God's place?" So let us do a little quick meditation here to help us get into the mood. Perhaps I should do a class on this, but for now, let's do this every day and see if we can make some progress. So I'm going to ask you, as you breathe slowly and deeply, to repeat this. I am an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. I am an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. I am an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. Next one. I know that infinite intelligence is expressing in me as me. I know that infinite intelligence is expressing in me as me. I know that infinite intelligence is expressing in me as me. Okay, so the first one again. I am an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. I am an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. I am an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. And the second one, I know that infinite intelligence is expressing as me, in me as me. I know that infinite intelligence is expressing in me as me. I know that infinite intelligence is expressing in me as me. I know that infinite intelligence is expressing in me as me. So we're working here to get our minds to accept who and what we really are, to get our minds to accept the fact that infinite intelligence is expressing through us as us. And then as we get to know that, then our words become more powerful, our thoughts become more powerful, our actions become more powerful because we then become spiritual warriors. Spiritual warriors. And so let me close with this prayer. Thank you, infinite intelligence. Thank you, infinite intelligence, for bringing us into this life. Thank you, infinite intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness. Thank you, infinite intelligence. Thank you so that we can feel your presence within us and in our lives. And as we feel your presence in us and in our lives every day, infinite intelligence, every day, we know that our connection with you is growing stronger and that our lives will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. Thank you. Thank you, infinite intelligence. Thank you. For this, we are truly grateful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. appreciate it greatly if you would click on the thumbs up like button and choose to subscribe to my broadcast. Again, I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this is On the Wings of Your Mind.